Hey everyone! In this video, I'm going to be breaking down Volume 2 of the Dark Horse Conan the Barbarian run. This volume is called The God in the Bowl and Other Stories. In Volume 0, Born on the Battlefield, we learned Conan's origin story in Samaria, from when he was born on the battlefield as a little baby to him becoming a teenager. In Volume 1, Conan traveled north, where he made some Asgardian friends, helped them out in their battle against the Vanir, but then they all got captured by the Hyperboreans and were brought over to Hyperborea as slaves. And there, all of Conan's new friends were eventually killed through a ritualistic suicide, and Conan, he managed to escape, but he did not get revenge on those Hyperboreans. Conan then traveled south to Brithunia, and that volume ended, the last one, with Conan deciding to travel west to Nemedia, and that is where we will pick up in this volume. In this volume, Conan's going to get involved in a whodunit. There's going to be a murder, and Conan is going to be a suspect. Although Conan kills people all the time, but for some reason this murder is important, and Conan is going to have to clear his name that he didn't do it. And then we are going to be introduced to Conan's arch nemesis. What the Joker is to Batman, this guy is to Conan. I'm talking about the evil sorcerer, Thoth-amon. So that's pretty exciting. Let's dive into it. Conan Volume 2. Conan Volume 2, The God in the Bowl and Other Stories, written by Kurt Busiek, art by Cary Nord. We begin with a short prologue. We meet a woman named Janissa, the Widowmaker. Janissa has snuck into a compound somewhere in Aquilonia. She skillfully sneaks into this compound and kills many people, and eventually she finds her main target. Her target is trying to escape, but Janissa taunts the man, saying, "Do you think that you would escape her? There is no escape from the Bone Woman merchant. No escape for anyone." Janissa then throws a throwing knife into the man's neck, killing him. Janissa then hears the voice of her master in her head, a woman named the Bone Woman. The Bone Woman tells Janissa, "No need to bring trophies. I felt him die. But you are needed elsewhere, child." Janissa asks where. The Bone Woman answers, "Nemedia." So Janissa collects her things and then she heads off to Nemedia, which just so happens to be where Conan is headed to. Conan, Issue 9. Two Nemedians walk into a bar. We see the Bone Woman in her cave. She is throwing some mystical stuff into a fire and seeing visions. She sees visions of Conan and his adventures. She finds Conan interesting. She comments, "You are a man of destiny, Sumerian, for good or ill. It is within you to shake the world. But there are others who also walk with heavy tread and cast broad and lengthy shadows. Your path and that of another draw close. It will prove interesting to see what comes, should those paths cross. Yes, interesting indeed." At the end of last volume, Conan was in the kingdom of Brithunia, and he was headed west to Nemedia. Nemedia is kind of a mix of the old Holy Roman Empire and ancient Greece. Once in Nemedia, Conan went to a bar, and in that bar, he witnessed a man named Viartis and his associate beating up another man and trying to extract coin from him. Once the brute, Viartis, got some money, he turned to the barkeep and ordered some ale and wine. Conan, watching this from a distance, was not impressed. Conan, he told them as such, and he said, "I know little of your ways, town dweller, but what you just did, Ymir, do you really think that bold?" Viartis, taking offense, said, "Strong words from the shadows, stranger. Dare you say it again to our faces?" Conan, not one to back down, stood up tall. He was taller than both Viartis and his partner. Conan, now in their faces, asks, "Is this what you wanted, pup?" Viartis then moves in to attack Conan, saying he will send him back to wherever his miserable homeland is. Conan, he beats Viartis easily, He lifts him over his shoulders, and then he tosses Viartis into his partner. Conan then taunts them, saying, "You see, you city dwellers are soft and weak, and don't know how to fight." Conan heard them boasting earlier about how they are the bold thieves of Birchinus. Well, Conan tells them, "You don't even know what it means to be bold." They ask him, "And you do?" Conan answers, "I might. Sit there and nurse your bruises while I tell you a tale, and then you judge for yourself." Conan tells the story of how he arrived into town this morning in the northeast gate. He then mocks their town, saying, "I never understand why you love to wall yourselves away from the world in dirty, smelly warrens and filth lying open in the streets." Still, though, I was admiring the sights. As Conan was walking the city streets, a rich man named Ataris was getting a ride on a chariot, and as the chariot zipped by Conan, its wheels spit up a whole bunch of mud and threw it on Conan, and Conan was not happy about it. He yelled, "You fat fool! Watch where you go in this horse-drawn slop bucket!" Ataris, taking offense, had his charioteer slam the brakes. Ataris then spoke to Conan, saying, "You dare address me in such a manner?" Conan answered, "You useless heap of dung! You'll pay for that." Ataris told his men, "Guards, give him a lesson in manners, beat him senseless, and leave him in the gutters he smells of so pungently." Ataris's guards then moved in on Conan, and they warned him, "Don't resist, outlander! I'll only go harder on you." Conan couldn't believe this warning. They actually want him to stand there and take a beating without fighting? Conan, he made quick work of Ataris's guards, and then all that was left was Conan and Ataris. Conan turned his attention to him and said, "And now, you quivering sack of suet, you were saying something about a lesson?" Ataris, now fearful, yelled out, "Watchmen! Watchmen!" And a whole bunch of watchmen then arrived to continue attacking Conan. There were too many guards of the city watch that arrived, so Conan, he fought a few of them off, but eventually he had to flee. Back in the bar, Conan is telling this tale. Viartis, he doesn't believe it. He asks, "What? You faced a nobleman's guard and the city watch and are free to tell about it?" Two scantily clad women in the bar, they back up Conan's story, saying, No, it's true. They were talking of it in the marketplace. Outlanders, they said, but I heard there were at least 5. They humiliated Magistrate Ataris's personal guard and escaped from an entire squad of the watch." The woman now asks Conan, "Was that just you?" Conan, he answers, "Ataris, yes, that was his name. Why don't you and your friend there join me?" Conan invites the two beautiful women to join him at his seat in the bar. Conan then calls the barmaid over and says, "More ale, innkeeper, and a flagon of wine for the ladies. Now, where was I?" As Conan continues to tell tales in this bar, we see Janissa, the Widowmaker, the girl we saw in the prologue story. Well, she has made her way to this bar, and she is secretly listening to Conan. Another man in the bar named Astrius Botanius, he is also very interested in Conan's story, and he eavesdrops as Conan continues telling his tale. Conan wanted to get revenge on this Ataris man that disrespected him earlier, so Conan explains he found out where the man lived. Ataris' home was very large, and it had many guards guarding it. But Conan and Cimmerians in general are very good climbers, so Conan easily scaled the walls and climbed in through the window. Once in Ataris' home, Conan came across some guards and he took them down. And then he snuck into Ataris' bedroom while he slept. Ataris eventually woke up and he was very scared when he saw Conan in his room. Conan told Ataris, "You are an ill-mannered lout, man of Nemedia, as being an ugly tub of guts. I told you this afternoon I would find you again. Did you doubt me?" Ataris tries to scream out for help, but Conan just smacks him in the face. Ataris now starts sniveling, saying, "Don't, please! What are you gonna do to me?" Conan, he actually takes pity on the man. He says, "I was going to kill you, pig, for your insult in the square today, but by Crum's fell offspring, there's no satisfaction in it. The way you cower and quail, I'd be like stepping on a bug. A fat, ugly bug, true, but... I'll just take these. They should fetch a pretty penny. and buy me wine and ale enough to make a fine apology. And perhaps in the future you'll show more respect to strangers hereafter." So Conan, he stole some things and then he took off. Back in the bar now in the present, Viartus has a hard time believing Conan's story. He says, "Oh, better and better. Now you braved the magistrate's palace to avenge a single blow? And you walked out with his most precious possessions? You're a liar." Conan very confidently says, "Oh, am I?" And then Conan shows the stolen goods that he took. Viartus and his colleague are impressed, but they decide to try and rob Conan. They pull out their swords and stick him up to take his goods. As soon as they do this, though, all of a sudden, some authorities from the City Watch arrive and they yell, "Stand where you are, nobody moves." Conan, he somehow managed to slip away and disappear, and all that is left are Viartus and his colleague with the stolen goods. The City Watch assume that they are guilty. They say, "Ah, look at that, Iantis. The magistrate's treasures. Caught red-handed, or I am a Berthunian farmer's daughter." Viartus tries to say, "What? No, it wasn't us." But Conan had already disappeared. The City Watch men say, Of course, it was someone else. It always is, isn't it?" Well, you've had your fun. Now you'll swing at the end of a rope for it. Viartus starts pleading. He says, "I swear it wasn't us. It was that barbarian, a Cimmerian. He was bragging about it. But we recovered it. We recovered it for the magistrate." Viartus starts turning to the people in the bar and he says, "Tell them! Come on, people, tell them! He was here!" All the people in the bar, though, end up taking Conan's side of the story. They say, "Oh, there has been no barbarian here these last 4 hours. I'd have seen him for sure." The woman that Conan was talking to say, "Oh, Cimmerians, they're dark, aren't they? Tall and dark-eyed like Zamorians? I wish there'd been one here, a rich one." Astrius Patanius, he says, "Oh, they're simply lying, watchmen. I cannot speak for what they may or may not have done before entering this tavern, but they have been bragging of their daring thievery ever since." So the City Watchman men leave with Viartus and his associate, and once they are gone, Conan comes out from hiding behind a curtain. The others in the bar all smile at Conan. They ask, "You planned all that?" Conan answers, "Ha! No, it was pure luck. Those fools happened along. I've been dodging the guard all night. If I'd truly been clever, I'd have stolen that fat pig's money instead of gold and jewels so recognizable I could sell them nowhere with no access to a smithy to melt them down." It turns out Conan doesn't have any money now to pay for his drinks, but others in the bar are so excited by Conan's tales and what he pulled off here tonight, they offer to pay for his drinks. Moments later, Asterius Patanius, one of the men who was eavesdropping on Conan's stories, asks Conan for a moment of his time. He has a job for Conan. He wants Conan to steal something for him, and he promises he will be well paid. Conan, smiling, he is very interested in this man's job, and he decides to take it. And they all continue to drink and talk in the bar for the rest of the night. Later on, outside of the bar that night, Janissa, the Widowmaker, is talking to her mistress, the Bone Woman, and she is reporting what she saw of Conan this day. She says how Conan is like a wild bull. He is cunning and skilled. The Bone Woman, talking to Janissa through some magic, says, "Yes, Janissa, he is raw and untutored, but he has a headlong strength that makes him someone to watch." She then orders Janissa to continue watching Conan, and eventually she will give her further orders. Conan Issue 10, The Temple of Kallian Publico. So last issue, Conan was hired by this guy, Astrius Patanius, to steal something in this museum, which is owned by this rich guy named Kallian Publico. Many in the city call this place Kallian Publico's Temple. It is known as a great museum and antique house with rarities from all over the world. So Conan, he manages to avoid the guards outside, and he climbs to the roof of the museum. And on the roof there, he breaks down a little latch, and then he enters the museum from the top. Elsewhere in the museum, we see a night watchman named Eris. Eris is doing his rounds and checking in on the various areas, and eventually he enters a room where he finds Kallian Publico dead. Aris inspects the body and he wonders why didn't they take his rings? And then Aris hears a noise nearby, and he finds Conan there. Aris assumes that Conan killed him and he asks, "Why did you kill him?" Conan answers, "I didn't kill him. Who is he?" Aris answers, "Kallian Publico, the owner of the house." Aris the watchman then rings a bell, sounding an alarm. Aris then, with his crossbow in his hand, points it at Conan and tells him not to move. Conan, he showed no fear though. He just stared Aris down. Aris, he started to get pretty scared himself of Conan, but no matter, a whole bunch of backup soon arrived. One of the backup is a man named Dionys. He's a very rough character. And the other is a man named Demetrio. Demetrio's official title is Chief of Inquisitorial Council in Numalia. So he is kind of like a detective. And now the rest of this storyline is going to kind of turn into a whodunit, with Demetrio playing the Sherlock Holmes type that is going to try and figure out who the murderer is, and if it is Conan or not. Demetrio, seeing Kallian Publico dead on the floor, asks Eris the watchman what happened. Aris explains he was doing his rounds. He was walking by the main door and he noticed it was only bolted, not locked, as it usually is. Kallian Publico always locks the door when he departs, and Eris had not seen him return. So he entered to see what happened and he found Kallian's dead body. Demetrio, the investigator, asks, "So, who is this?" pointing to Conan. Aris answers, "He's the murderer, without doubt. He came through that door. He's a northerner of some sort, Bosonian, or..." Conan answers, "I am Conan, I am a Cimmerian." Demetrio questions, "Did you kill this man? Answer me." Conan eventually answers, "I am no dog, do not treat me as such." Dionys, the more rough guard, he tells Conan, "Oh, an insolent fellow, one of these citizens with rights, huh? I'll soon knock that out of him. Come clean, you. Why did you murder him?" Demetrio calms Dionys down and tells them all, "Look, fellow, I am the chief of the Inquisitorial Council of the city of Numalia. You had best tell me why you are here, and if you are not the murderer, prove it." Conan, he stays silent and just gives a stern look. Demetrio, Eris, and Dionys discuss how they are going to deal with Conan. He's not being very cooperative. Dionys suggests he get violent with him and beat a confession out of Conan. Conan, not scared, answers, "Any man who touches me will quickly greet his ancestors in hell." Demetrio, he questions Conan further, saying, "So, why did you come here if not to kill this man?" Conan answers, "To steal." Demetrio, with a follow-up question, asks, "To steal what?" Conan, lying, says, "Food." Demetrio calls Conan out, saying, "That's a lie. You knew there was no food here. Tell me the truth." Conan, getting annoyed, says, "Save your bullying for the fools who fear you. I'm no city-bred Nemedian to cringe before your hired curs, and I've killed better men than you for less than this." Conan starts reaching for his sword. Things are starting to seem like they might turn violent. Demetrio calms everyone down, though, saying, "I have not accused you of killing Kallian, fellow, but you must admit the appearances are against you. How did you enter the temple?" Conan answers, "I hid in the shadows of the warehouse behind this building. When that dog of a watchman passed, I scaled the wall. I climbed up to the roof and came through a trapdoor fastened with an iron bolt, locked from the inside. I was forced to break the bolt with my sword." Conan then explains that he didn't pause in the upper chambers. He came straight away to this stairwell. The stairwell led beyond yonder to a curtained door. He heard the door being opened. When he looked through the hangings, he saw Eris there standing over Kallian, the dead man. Demetrio questions, "Why did you come out of your hiding place?" Conan answers, "It was dark outside when I saw the watchman. I thought he was a thief too." Demetrio continues, But even so, why reveal yourself? Conan to this answers, I thought perhaps he'd come to steal what I came to steal. Demetrio, talking out loud, says, You've told me more than you intended, Cimmerian. You came here with a definite purpose. You did not tarry in the upper rooms where the richest goods were stored. You knew the plan of this building. You were sent here by someone who knows the temple to steal something special. Dionys then with a violent outburst yells, You came here to kill Kallian Publico. By Mitra, we've hit it. Grab him, men. We'll have a confession before morning. Conan, he then pulls out his sword and yells, Back if you value your dog lives. Just because you dare torture shopkeepers and beat harlots, don't think you can lay your fat paws on a hill, man. Go on, fumble with your bow, watchman. I'll burst your guts with my heel before the night is over. Demetrio gets in the way of the both of them and says, Wait! Call your dogs off, Dionys. I'm not convinced Conan is the murderer. Demetrio then whispers to Dionys saying, You fool, he'll kill half your men. Wait until we can summon more or trick him into laying down his sword. Dionys backs down. Demetrio tells Conan to, give him his sword. He's not his enemy. Conan, though, he's not gonna fall for that and replies, Take it if you can. Alright, Demetrio is gonna back down. He replies, Very well, you can keep it, but don't try to escape. 4 men with crossbows watch the house outside. One thing kind of amusing with this interaction is that all these people here, they're kind of cops, but they fear Conan, and they think that Conan could kick their ass. So even though they're trying to get tough with him, and they want him to give up his sword, and they want to arrest him, they're still worried they won't be able to, so they're kind of letting Conan walk over them a little bit. Although Demetrio, the head investigator, he does seem a little genuinely skeptical if Conan is actually the murderer. So he continues his investigations. Demetrio inspects Kallian's body, and he says, he was strangled. These Cimmerians are a bloody race, but why strangle him when a sword stroke is quicker and surer? Kallian's been dead for about half an hour. If Conan tells the truth about when he entered, he would not have had time to commit the murder before Aris entered, although Conan may be lying. Conan cuts in and says, I climbed the wall after Aris made the last round. Demetrio replies, Well, so you say. Demetrio, inspecting Kallian's body some more, says, The bruises are strange too. Why would a murderer use a cable thicker than a man's arm? And what a terrible constriction must have been applied. Demetrio looks at a room nearby and says that Kallian must have been attacked in that room, and then he broke away or dragged his assailant with him as he fled. Anyway, he ran staggeringly out into the corridor, where the murderer finished him. Demetrio, he then orders Dionys to bring 2 people to him he wants to question some more. He wants to question Inaro, who is Kallian Publico's charioteer, or in other words, his driver, as well as a guy named Primero, who is Kallian's clerk, or in other words, his accountant, sort of. So first, Inaro gets questioned, the charioteer. The charioteer explains he picked up Kallian at the temple and drove him to his villa. But on the way, Kallian insisted he be brought back to the temple. But before going to the temple, he wanted to make a stop off at Primero's house, his clerk. So then Demetrio talks to this Primero, the clerk of Kallian. He asks him, Did Kallian Publico come to your house? Primero answers, Yes, but he stayed only a few minutes. Demetrio asks, Why did he come to your house? Primero says, To talk business. Demetrio believes Primero is lying and not telling the full story. He orders Dionys to get rough with Primero and get some answers. Dionys is happy to oblige. He starts beating and kicking Primero and trying to get him to talk. Eventually, Primero says that Kallian eventually left his house saying he had to go back to the temple. There was something he wished to examine. Demetrio questions, Well, why would he come here to examine this thing alone and in such secrecy? Primero says, whatever he wanted to examine, it was not his property. Primero then begins talking about this strange artifact that Kallian received recently, the artifact that he wanted to examine. Primero says the artifact had arrived in a caravan from the south at dawn. The men of the caravan knew nothing except it had been placed with them by men from Stygia. In Conan's world, Stygia is kind of like ancient Egypt. Primero continues and says that this artifact from Stygia was meant for a man named Callanthus of Hanumar. He was a priest of their god Ibis. The master of the caravan was paid to deliver it to Callanthus, but it would have been out of the caravan's way as he wished to go on to Aquilonia, and he didn't want to diverge his route. So he asked if he could leave it here in Kallian Publico's temple until Callanthus could send for it. Kallian agreed and said he would send a runner to inform Callanthus about this object. But as soon as the caravan left, Kallian got a little greedy. He forbade anyone to send word to Callanthus about the object, as he wanted it for himself. Demetrio asks, what was the object? Primero answers, it was a sort of sarcophagus, such as is found in ancient Stygian tombs. But this one was round, like a covered metal bowl. It was constructed of something like copper, but much harder, and bound with metal bands. We were told it was a priceless relic, sent to Callanthus because of the love of the sender bore the priest of Ibis. Kallian believed inside the metal bowl would be a crown of the giant kings who ruled that dark land before the Stygians came there, and it would probably be very valuable. Primero continues and says that Kallian showed him the design carved on the lid, and he swore it was in the shape of a crown. He was determined to open the bowl. He was like a madman when he thought of that fabled crown. Primero says he tried to warn Kallian against it, but there was no staying him. Primero then admits that Kallian said if the crown was indeed inside of the bowl, he intended on hiding it, and then he would say on the morrow that he would hue and cry and say that thieves had broken in, and none would know the truth. None except for I and the charioteer, and we would not betray him. Demetrio asks, well, where is this sarcophagus, this object? Primero points to a room. Demetrio replies, the very room in which he was attacked in. Primero then starts giving an ominous warning. He says, is it? Something is wrong here, my lord. Monstrously wrong. Why should any in Stygia send Callanthus a gift? Ancient gods and queer mummies have come up from caravan roads, but they still worship the archdemon Set in Stygia, and the god Ibis has fought Set since the first dawn of the earth. Demetrio brushes Primero aside and says, show us the sarcophagus. Primero, Demetrio, and Conan and others enter the room where the supposed sarcophagus is. They go into the room and they see this object, this metal bowl. Primero, he exclaims, Mitra and Ishtar, look, the bowl, it's open and it's empty. Conan issue 11, The God in the Bowl. They all inspect this bowl. Demetrio asks Conan, is this what he came to steal? Conan answers, how could I bear it away? It's too big for one man to carry. Primero starts getting all paranoid as he inspects the bowl. He says, look at it, molds clinging to it. It smells as earth smells deep underground. This bowl is too old for the human world, I tell you. It is a relic of the time Set walked the earth in the form of a man. The race which sprang from his loins laid the bones of their kings in such cases as these. It was no man who was laid to rest in that bowl. Demetrio replies to Primero, Mitra's beard, man, get a hold of yourself. Demetrio orders Conan and some of the others to stay, and then he orders the rest of the men to search the house, see if they can find anyone else. Demetrio then tells Conan, you know what it means if they find no one, right? You're going to look like the guilty one. Look, someone sent you here tonight to steal at least. By your silence, you incriminate yourself and the murderer as well. You'd best speak. Your mere presence is enough to send you to the mines for 10 years, whether you confess or not. But tell the whole tale, man, and you may save yourself from the stake. Conan, he thinks on how he should play this and eventually decides to be truthful a little bit. He says, I came to steal the Zamorian diamond goblet. I was given a diagram of the temple and told where to look for it. It is kept in the next room in a niche in the floor under a copper Shemtish god. Primero, listening to this, says, he speaks the truth. I thought that not a half a dozen men in the whole world knew that secret hiding place. Demetrio asks Conan who sent him here. Conan, he doesn't answer. The rest of the guards come back after their searching. Janissa explains they found the trap door in the roof that the barbarian entered in and cut the bolt in half of. He also says that he found the cable the murderer used. They go into the room where the murder weapon supposedly is, the black cable that supposedly strangled Kallian. It was at the top of this pillar, but all of a sudden it's now gone. Demetrio, looking at the pillar where Janissa said the cable supposedly was, answers, You're drunk. That's too high for a man to reach, and nothing but a snake could climb that smooth a pillar. While they are all talking, Primero continues investigating the metal bowl, and he starts freaking out again and causes another scene. Demetrio questions, what now, man? Primero replies, I found a symbol in the bottom of the bowl. Not an ancient hieroglyphic, but a symbol recently carved. It's the mark of Thoth-amon, Calanthus' deadly foe. Demetrio questions, who? Thoth-amon is a great wizard, and he is actually going to be one of Conan's main rivals and enemies throughout his life. Primero, he explains who Thoth-amon is. He says, few know his name north of the Styx, but in Stygia and the southern lands, they speak of him in whispers, fearing his notice. He is the mightiest sorcerer of the Black Ring, and it is said that even King Ctesiphon of Stygia is bent to his will. He calls things from outside that do his bidding, and woe betide any who suffers his wrath. He is Thoth-amon! He is death! He must have found that bowl in some grisly cavern below the haunted pyramids and sent it to Calanthus, his great enemy. He sent death, for the gods of old did not die as men died. They fell into deep sleep, and their worshippers cased them in sarcophagi, so that no hand would break their slumber. Thoth-amon sent death, and Kallian greed set, the horror loose. Even now it is lurking somewhere near us. Even now it may be creeping toward. Janissa slaps Primero in the face, saying, You gibbering fool! Conan all of a sudden notices something moving in the next room. He yells out, I saw something move in that room! I saw it through the hangings! Something that crossed the floor, like a long dark shadow. They search the premises a bit, and eventually they find someone. Janissa managed to find Astrius Botanius, the very man that hired Conan to do some thievery this night. Janissa brings Astrius in front of Demetrio. He explains, I saw him slinking in the back of the temple and fastened on him straight away. I knew you'd want to question him. Demetrio, seeing Astrius, is a little bit horrified. He says, Release that gentleman, you bungling fool! Don't you know who that is? That's Astrius Botanius, the nephew of the city's governor. Janissa immediately lets him go. Astrius then explains, save your apologies, good Demetrio. All in the line of duty, I know. I was returning from a late walk to rid my brain of the wine fumes. What have we here? By Mitra, is it murder? Astrius is looking at dead Kallian's body. Janissa, pointing at Conan, says, It is a dead body, my lord, but Janissa, then pointing to Conan, says, We have a man who, though Demetrio has his doubts on the matters, will doubtless go to the stake for it. Astrius, pretending he's never met Conan before, says, "Oh, a vicious-looking brute. How can any doubt his guilt? I have never seen such a villainous-looking face before." This pisses Conan off. He says, "Yes, you have, you scented dog, when you hired me to steal the Zamorian goblet for you. Bah, you were waiting in the shadows for me. I wouldn't have revealed you if you had given me fair words. Now tell these dogs I climbed the wall after the watchman made his last round, so they'll know I didn't have time to kill this fat swine." Demetrio, he's actually willing to play this however Astrius wants, even willing to bend the rules. He says, "If what he says is true, my lord, it clears him of murder, and we can easily hush up the matter of attempted theft. He's due 10 years hard labor for housebreaking, but say the word and we'll arrange his escape, and none need know of it. I understand. You wouldn't be the first young nobleman with gambling debts and the like. You can rely on our discretion." Astrius, he yawns and says, "I know him not. He is mad to say I hired him. Let him take his just deserts. He has a strong back, and the toil in the mines will be well for him." Conan does not like this at all. This guy is pretending he didn't hire him, and he's willing to send him to the mines for 10 years to do hard labor? Well, Conan's had enough. He pulls out his sword and chops off Astrius's head, right in front of everyone. The others in the room start freaking out. They try to attack Conan, but he manages to kick them and fend them off. And as they are tussling, Primero, who is in the next room, he comes out and he starts screaming, "Ah!" He then falls to the floor and says, the god has a long neck, ha 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 ha, and such a cursed long neck." Primero then fully falls to the ground and dies. Everyone is now fearful. They ask, "In Mitra's name, what's in that chamber?" And a horror swept over all the men. They started leaving the premises. Conan, though, ever curious, went into the chamber where Primero came out of screaming. When Conan went inside that chamber, he saw a face. A face was sticking up above a little divider screen. Conan, he stared at the face, and thoughts splintered through his fragmented mind. The thought of the body that must be behind the screen, beneath the face, inhumanly perfect, inhumanly cold. And then somehow the face spoke to Conan, just said one word, "Come." Conan made a desperate leap and he swung with his sword at the face. And he swung and cut off the head of the beast that was behind the screen. And it turns out that beast was a giant snake. Conan, when he saw this snake, replied, "Crom." And then Conan, he fled too. Okay, to summarize what happened here, just so it's clear before we head on to the next story. This evil wizard, Thoth-amon, who seems to worship the Stygian god known as Set, the evil god. In this fancy sarcophagus bowl, Thoth-amon sent it to his enemy, a man named Calanthus, who is a priest of Ibis, who is kind of like the opposite god to Set. Thoth-amon intended his enemy, Calanthus, to receive this gift, and when he would open it, Calanthus would then be killed by this snake. The snake potentially infused with some sort of dark magics. But the caravan driver was too lazy to bring the object all the way to its final destination, so he dropped it off here with Kallian Publico, intending on him sending it the rest of the way. But Kallian Publico got greedy and opened the object himself, and the snake killed him, thus leading to tonight's events. Alright, let's continue on with the story now, where we will learn a little bit more about Thoth-amon, Conan's great enemy, as well as this Calanthus, the priest of Ibis. Conan, Issue 12, The Hanumar Road. Conan, he wakes up in a prison cell, a little bit unsure of how he got here. He tries to remember. Conan, he killed that snake and then he fled Numalia. He had found a road west of the city, so he started walking it. At some point along the road, though, he got attacked from behind and bonked in the head and passed out, and he woke up here. Others just assumed that Conan was some sort of drunkard, penniless, passed out on the streets. So that is why they took him to this holding cell. Conan in this holding cell has a view of the town square and everyone walking by. And it just so happens Conan overhears someone talking to a guy named Callanthus. Callanthus was the very same priest of Ibis that the evil wizard Thoth-amon meant to send the snake to kill him. Conan, hearing Callanthus' name, screams out at him saying, "Callanthus! Callanthus! Priest of Ibis!" Callanthus, hearing his name, is curious, and he goes and talks to Conan. Callanthus sees Conan, asks him, "Ho, fellow, what service may I do you?" Conan answers, "I am Conan, a Cimmerian. I have information that could preserve your life from a mighty foe. Get me out of this cell and I'll give it to you." Callanthus is intrigued, but he doesn't see how he will ever be able to believe Conan's story. Conan, he then offers up some info saying, "Would I make up a tale of Thoth-amon, of the Black Ring of Stygia?" Callanthus, very familiar with Thoth-amon, his great enemy, says, "Those names are not spoken lightly, even by those few who know of them this far north. But I know to be wary of my old colleague. What else can you offer, friend, Conan, to benefit my weary self?" Conan answers, 3 nights ago I slew a demon, a creature of Set, sent to kill you. Even dead, it filled me with fear, but in the light of day I see it for what it was, merely flesh and blood, a creature cut and killed by steel. I'll travel with you for a time. I killed one, I can kill another, if need be." So Conan is offering to be this Callanthus' protection if Callanthus will help Conan get out of here. Callanthus tells Conan it's a generous offer, but he already has several men at arms. Callanthus motions to his guards nearby. He also has Janissa, the Widowmaker, under his employ. Conan, seeing her, is unimpressed. He says, "Her? Pah! A skinny slip of a girl like that? I could snap her in two with my bare hands." Callanthus asks Janissa if she wants to demonstrate her skills to Conan. Conan, he's allowed out of his cell, and he is given a sword, and him and Janissa fight in the town square. Before they fight, Conan, he recognizes her and asks, "I know you, girl. Where have I seen you before?" Janissa answers that she saw Conan in a tavern 5 nights ago. They then begin fighting. Janissa slashing her weapon, Conan slashing his, Janissa dodging and jumping and flipping. Janissa is definitely a very capable fighter. Conan is almost just as skilled as her. Conan at one point does get the upper hand in the battle, and he punches Janissa in her face. Janissa, though, she quickly recovers. Janissa wants to continue battling Conan, but Callanthus, he stops their fighting. He has seen enough. He tells Janissa, "Calm yourself, my dear. This was just a test of skill," as Conan said. "He is the first man I have seen to lay a hand on you, and to break your warrior's calm as well. I would not have thought either possible." Callanthus, he will pay Conan's bail or what have you from this jail, and he will allow Conan to travel with him. Callanthus, Conan, Janissa, and the others begin their march. They pick up some supplies, and then they head off into the mountains. They are headed to a place called Hanumar, where Callanthus has to take care of some business. As they are marching, Conan starts talking to Callanthus. He asks him, "I know the gods of the north, Callanthus, but little of those in the south, save Mitra and Ishtar. How is it that a priest of Ibis earns the enmity of a sorcerer in the service of Set?" Callanthus, he answers and starts explaining his history with the sorcerer Thoth-amon. Callanthus answers, "Thoth-amon is in the service of none, good Conan. I knew him well once, long ago. Or I thought I did before he proved himself as deadly as the serpent he claims to worship." Callanthus then talks about a powerful, magical weapon, something called the Eye of Tik-Pulonga. It is a green emerald shape. It is dark and tainted beyond measure. It has long been sought by those who wield it and those who fear its use. Callanthus says that after years of searching for it, he traced it to a deep cavern in the frozen north of Hyrcania. When he retrieved the Eye of Tikpalunga, Thoth-amon's forces were shortly behind, and they started chasing Callanthus. Callanthus and his people did manage to escape, though. Callanthus then tells Conan, the Eye is old and powerful, and there are a few places its dark heart can be broken. One such place is Hanumar, once a stronghold of learning and still a place of ancient power. That is why I have made it my home these last decades. Conan questions, so that's why Thoth-amon sent a demon to kill you, to stop you before you could destroy the gem. Callanthus answers, yes, but to use one of the children of Set that way, to lose it as he did, he wants the gem more than I would have thought. Just at that moment, someone in Callanthus's party screams out in pain. It is a man named Davo. Davo is a loyal servant of Callanthus, and he just got bitten by a serpent moments ago when they passed through a stand of trees. Callanthus, he investigates the wound and he figures that this must be Thoth-amon striking out against them, as there are no snakes native to these hills. That night when they made camp, Davo grew sick, and he moaned and wept in pain. Callanthus used various spells and powders to try and soothe Davo's leg. Meanwhile, Conan and Janissa talked. Conan, he complimented Janissa's sword work and told her he wished to learn how it was done. Janissa is surprised by Conan's compliment. She asks, I thought you said you could break me in two. Conan answers, perhaps I can, but you have more skill than I'd expect of a woman. Janissa to this responds, most men I've faced wouldn't admit to that. Then again, most men don't live long enough. Conan responds, and most women don't learn the blade. How did you come to be what you are, Janissa? I'd heard you're a Zingarian, but Zingarian women don't fight like that. We see on our Hyborian age map here, Janissa is from Zingara. Zingara is far on the west coast, bordering the ocean, south of the Pictish wilderness and Aquilonia. Zingara would be the most equivalent to Spain in our world. Janissa, continuing to talk to Conan, tells him her tale and how she came to be how she is. So we see a flashback now to Janissa's origin story. Janissa grew up in the Zingaran city of Seodiz. Her father was a wealthy merchant. Her father wanted sons, but he only had daughters. So he thought he would at least use his daughters and bring the family into nobility by marrying them off well. This did not please Janissa, though. While her sisters were perfectly happy to just get married off, Janissa, she wanted more. She wanted her freedom to make her own way in the world by her own wits, her own skills, rather than a life of silk and satins to be chosen for her by men. So one night, Janissa snuck away from her home, and she heard of a sorceress in the hills, a woman with great power who answered to no man. The sorceress was known only as the Bone Woman. When Janissa met the Bone Woman asked what it is she wanted. Janissa answered, I want strength, I want skill, I want to be the equal of any man, or better. The Bone Woman, listening, replied, I can give you that. There is a price, however. Janissa answered, anything. The Bone Woman continued, here are the terms. You will be strong, you will be deadly. Few, if any, will be able to stand against you in battle. And in payment, you will serve me for a time equal to twice the length of your training. Janissa said that she will do it. She'll do anything. Well, they had a deal. The Bone Woman, she then pulled out some yellow powder made from crushed yellow lotus leaves. She blew it into Janissa's face, and Janissa's world went dark. And when Janissa woke up, she was in some sort of cave. This is where Janissa would be trained to get strength and skill and become the better of any man. Although I will say, this training is pretty fucked up. Alright. The Bone Woman gave Janissa a sword, and then a demon was released into the cave. Janissa, who had no prior training to this point, was just forced to defend herself. She would learn on the spot, and that would be her training. So she tried to kill the demon, but the demon easily overpowered her, and the creature tore her garments from her and raped her, scarring her flesh and her soul. It took her repeatedly until she passed out from the pain. And then Janissa woke up. The Bone Woman gave Janissa food, water, and told her to rest and regain her strength, and think on her mistakes, and what she might have done better. Janissa is shocked. The Bone Woman tells her, "Think on your mistakes. There will be 2 of them tonight." Janissa then starts pleading, "What? No, please, let me go. I'll do anything you say. Only, please, for the love of Mitra, please." Well, there were 2 demons that night that Janissa had to fight off, and once again she failed. And then the next night, there were 3, and every night they attacked. And it would not stop. And Janissa, she tried to train, she tried to improve her skills and make her muscles bigger and her speed faster. She tried to fight through injury, for she knew that they would come every night. And finally, after many nights, she got her first kill. She almost shouted out with savage joy before she was overwhelmed by its demonic brothers and brutalized once more. The next day, the Bone Woman came, not just with food, but with potions for pain, for healing. And she spoke to Janissa of strategies she could use, gambits she could try. The next night, Janissa killed 2 of the demons, although she still succumbed to the rest that night. And eventually time went by, and these attacks continued coming every night. Janissa does not know how long it lasted. Months? Years? A decade? But eventually, the time came when Janissa killed every demon that was sent to her. She killed them every night for a month. Finally, Janissa's training was done, and she would have to serve the Bone Woman for twice the length of her training. So she has served her ever since. Conan, hearing this story, is shocked. Janissa, she says she doesn't want Conan's pity. Janissa then tells Conan that she was the one that knocked him out and made it so that he was in that jail cell where he would eventually run into Callanthus. As the 2 of them continue talking into the night, we see elsewhere down in Stygia, the sorcerer Thoth-amon is somehow surveying Conan and the others through the magics in his cauldron. Conan, Issue 13, The Devil Within. Callanthus, Conan, and the others continued their journey onward to Hanumar, the ancient city that Callanthus believes is the only place the Eye of Tikpulunga, the mystic gem, can be destroyed. As they are marching, Davo, the one that got bit by the snake, he continues getting more and more sick. Callanthus continues doing some sort of magical treatment to him to try and keep him alive. All of a sudden, Davo starts spitting out a whole bunch of bugs and insects from his mouth. A swarm of them. The bugs and insects form an image of Thoth-amon in the sky. Thoth-amon, even from a great distance, is able to use his magic to conjure things like this. Thoth-amon, through the insects, begins talking. He says, "Callanthus, my old friend, do you not grow weary after centuries of fighting, losing battles? You do your men no favors by deluding them into believing dreams and then wasting their lives like dust in the wind. How many generations have you led to their deaths, Callanthus?" Callanthus answers, "Fewer than you have gulled to theirs, and all who follow me do so willingly of their own choice." Thoth-amon replies, "The natural state of mankind is slavery. The only question is who commands and who obeys. Better to teach acceptance than the honeyed lies of freedom." The two of them trade a few more verbal back and forths to one another, but eventually the swarm of insects forming Thoth-amon's face disperse. Calanthus turns to his crew and says, his attack was meant to delay. He'll kill if he can, but it is not his main purpose. Onward! We must reach Hanumar today! Calanthus continues marching with his men. Conan, he asks Calanthus a question though. He says, you need to reach Hanumar with the gem, right? Why not take the horses and ride ahead with a few men? We can follow with Davo without slowing you needlessly. Calanthus answers Conan saying, if it were that simple. I must replenish the spells that keep Davo from succumbing to Thoth-amon's sorcery. Without my presence, he will die. Conan says, yes, but with it, every delay gives Thoth-amon more time to prevent us from reaching Hanumar. Calanthus to this answers, Thoth is well aware of this. That is why he has chosen to attack. In just this way, because he knows the choice I will make. Go ahead, Cimmerian. Say it. I know you want to. Say it. Conan says, Davo delays you. He has become a weapon of your enemy. You could kill him. Calanthus to this responds, I could, and Thoth knows that choice is before me too. It would be smart to do so, but I will not. Davo has served me all his life, and I will not abandon him so easily. They continued marching onwards. Conan, he thought about Calanthus's decision, and Conan, he thanked Crom that he was not a king or an emperor or a priest, as he would definitely struggle with a decision like Calanthus has made. They march onward through the mountains, scaling down the hills, and as they march, Conan, he confronts Janissa. He tells her, you are the reason I am caught up in this. You struck me from behind and left me to be jailed, and I agreed to bodyguard Calanthus for my freedom. You would not tell me why and then, but I want answers from you now. Janissa confesses that it was the Bone Woman. She told Janissa to arrange it. She wants Conan here with Calanthus. She's intrigued by him. Conan questions why. Janissa, she says, what do I care? I just do the Bone Woman's bidding, as I'm sworn to do. She tells me to guard Calanthus, I do it. She tells me to put you in his path, I do it. I don't ask why, and she would not tell me if I did. All of a sudden, Davo takes a turn for the worse. His skin starts splitting open, and a giant snake-like beast bursts from his body. The beast has been created by various insects swarming together. Thoth-amon, now controlling this massive beast, blocks their path. Calanthus, sad his friend died, says, I'm sorry, Davo. Thoth-amon delayed us too long. I was unable to save your life. Thoth-amon, through this creature, starts attacking them all on the mountain. And he mocks them, saying, you see now where the pursuits of foolish dreams leads you, men of Calanthus? Think on this. Then as you choke on your own blood, the life of a slave is hard, but softer than dying like this. Conan, he stands before this beast. The massive snake-like creature picks Conan up. It tries to kill Conan, but Conan, with his knife, slashes at the creature and gets dropped back down to the ground. Conan, he gets an idea of how they might be able to fight this creature. He gets Janissa and tells her that he wants to push this boulder off of the cliff and down onto the beast below. Thoth-amon, through the beast, continues taunting Calanthus, saying, fool! In this open space, you had no time to create spells that could hold me back. I'll sweep you aside easily. Conan and Janissa manage to send the boulder down the mountain, and it strikes the beast and causes it to fall down to the bottom of the mountain and be pinned under that boulder, at least momentarily. Calanthus begins forming a plan. His men are going to stay here and do their duty and try to fight the creature if it comes back up the mountain. Meanwhile, Calanthus wants Janissa and Conan to come with him and guard him. There may be future dangers ahead. They must make it to the city of Hanumar and finally destroy this gem. So Conan, Janissa, and Calanthus get on 2 horses, and they ride as hard and as fast as they can to their destination. and behind them, Thoth-amon manages to already free himself from the boulder, and somehow he is growing and closing in on them. Calanthus, Conan, and Janissa finally arrive at the entrance of the city of Hanumar. Calanthus states, "Once within, we'll be safe. I built protections into the walls myself to ward off evil." As soon as they get closer to approaching the entrance of the city, though, Calanthus grows concerned. The city's defenders on the outside of the city, they have been infected by Thoth-amon. As we see, they are covered by all sorts of insects and scarabs that have taken over their minds. Conan, issue 14, The Ibis and the Serpent. Conan, Janissa, and Calanthus are fighting through all of the scarab-infected people at the front gates. As they start creating a pile of dead bodies in front of them, Thoth-amon is still closing in from behind. Calanthus gives Conan some sort of special feather of the gods of Ibis. Conan, he wears it as a charm, and it supposedly protects him from the foul magic around them. Calanthus tells Conan and Janissa that they must reach the square in the heart of the town. Meanwhile, Thoth-amon, now closer, begins taunting them, saying, "Calanthus! Is this what it comes down to, Calanthus? Scurrying like a rat in a labyrinth? I'll have the eye and your heart as well, torn beating from your chest." Some of these scarabs that had infected people start leaving the people and returning to Thoth-amon, and Thoth-amon continues to grow. Once the scarabs leave their victim, they appear to return to normal. Calanthus is happy when he sees this. As they push further on, they finally make it to the square, where they will be free of Thoth's vermin. Calanthus, Conan, and Janissa enter the square, and finally they have a moment of reprieve. Calanthus tosses Conan the gem, the Eye of Tikpalunga. He tells him, "The eye, Conan. I must weave spells, keep the creature at bay. You'll have to destroy it. Stand at the obelisk, your back to it. It's older than the eye, older than Hyboria, older than dark Acheron. The powers it is sacred to are long forgotten, but strong beyond imagining." Conan, he says he's not sure what he's supposed to do. Calanthus tells Conan he's supposed to remove the feather of Ibis. With it, the power of the old gods will not be able to assist Conan in destroying the gem. And then Conan is supposed to stand with his back to the obelisk and somehow destroy the gem. Conan, not really sure, begins to try. His back is to the obelisk, and all of a sudden, a whole bunch of weeds and plants start forming over him. Conan is getting fully engulfed by the weeds. But eventually, Conan thinks this is too weird, and he screams out, "No!" Conan does not want these vines to engulf him. He tells Calanthus, "You do it, old man. You want your precious eye destroyed that badly? Let the damned god take you." Calanthus screams, "Conan, you must! Without my protection, Thoth-amon will overwhelm the square, break its defenses before the gem can be destroyed." Conan, he doesn't care. He tosses the gem to Janissa and tells her, "You do it." Janissa says she can't. Conan tells her, "Nor did I say I would when you gulled me into this, woman. Your mistress bade you to serve Calanthus, so serve him." Sigh, Janissa, she stands with her back to the obelisk. She screams, "Bastard, I'll kill you for this." And the vines start engulfing her. Calanthus is using magic to hold Thoth-amon back. Conan goes over to the beast that Thoth-amon has formed, and he starts slicing into it. Conan continues slicing with his sword into the Thoth-amon beast. But Thoth-amon, he sends some of his scarabs, and they begin taking over Conan's mind. And eventually, Thoth-amon completely envelops Conan. It begins devouring him, digesting him. The laughter of Thoth-amon is all around Conan. While Conan is in this beast body that Thoth-amon has formed, he sees Davo in there. Davo did not fully die, and Thoth-amon was able to appear here by controlling Davo's body and forming the beasts around him. Conan, he kills Davo, and then immediately Thoth-amon's power wanes, and he begins dispersing. Thoth-amon screams out, "What? No, you... Without its host body, Thoth-amon can no longer remain here, and the scarabs and everything return to dust and float away. Janissa, with her back to this obelisk, still. Somehow, the gods that she was conjuring from that obelisk are able to destroy the gem, and it breaks apart. Calanthus, when he sees this, he shouts out, Thank Ibis. With this eye of Tikpalunga now destroyed, the world seems safe for now, and it will not fall into Thoth-amon's hands. Conan, he passes out from this whole ordeal. Conan, as he lays asleep for many days, he has some visions. In his visions, the Bone Woman appears to him. Conan asks if she is Thoth-amon. She answers, No, he's gone, scuttling back to Stygia with his stinger tucked between his legs to lick his wounds and glower. She explains who she is, that she is the Bone Woman, and she wants to make Conan an offer. She says, I have power and secret knowledge of the workings of the world. You have the potential for a great destiny. I'll guide you, aid you. Your destiny will flower. You'll have riches, power over men and land, luxury and women. Conan asks her, and you will get? The Bone Woman answers, Oh, I'll profit. Don't worry your shaggy head about that. And from time to time, you'll do me favors. Conan, he quickly says, No. The Bone Woman continues, I don't think you understand, young hero. You have made an enemy of Thoth-amon, and he has a long memory, especially for those who slight him. Without my protection, you'll be as vulnerable to him as a naked babe. Conan responds, and with it, I'd be your slave like Janissa. The Bone Woman to this says, You like her? You can have her if you wish. Conan says, No. The Bone Woman continues, Think long on this, barbarian. You have a choice to make that will affect the rest of your life, be it long or very short. Your future, your destiny. Conan, he then yells, Get out of my head, woman, before I snap your dry bones into kindling for my fire. Get out, woman, get out! Conan, he finally wakes up. He is in a bed. He is in a room with Calanthus. Calanthus, seeing Conan awake, says, Conan, you're awake. You've been out for 5 days since the battle. I had thought the poison would take you despite my best efforts, but you rallied unexpectedly on the 3rd day. Calanthus then prepares some food for Conan to eat. Conan, with his strength coming back, asks, What of Janissa? Calanthus answers, Janissa comes and goes as her benefactor sees fit. She departed 4 days ago, not without some choice words about you, however, which I'll not repeat. Conan had a score to settle with her, but it felt to him when she took his place at the obelisk, it was settled. Calanthus also tells Conan that he has done Ibis a great service, and he wonders if Conan would be willing to stay on and help him. Conan thanks Calanthus but says no. Well, Calanthus, he gives Conan some money at least. The cause of Ibis is not a poor one, and they are grateful for Conan's aid. So, at least Conan got some gold after all of this. Calanthus also gifted Conan with food and supplies as well. Conan, he left Calanthus and returned to town with all of his new money and supplies. And in that town, he found a merchant. The merchant recognizes Conan because he met him earlier. The merchant tells Conan, We're off to Corinthia with a cargo of Aquilonian wines and could use an extra hand. Care to join us? Conan, seeing the merchant, as well as 2 beautiful women he's traveling with, answers, Why not? Conan gets in the merchant's cart and they begin riding off. The merchant asks Conan, You're in a good mood, lucky in love? Conan laughs and says, Ha! Wherever I have gone since I left my home, I've found foul magic and worse creatures. I'd begin to think civilization was not for me, but now I was trapped between 2 mighty forces and proved that whenever the threat, if it bleeds, I can kill it. I've proven myself civilization's master and made a fine profit doing it. Mitra, Ibis, Set, and more. Bring me your worst, world. I'll take it on and triumph. Conan, he laughs and heads off on his next adventure to Corinthia. And with this, we end Volume 2, God in the Bowl. Alright, so that was Volume 2. Let me go through my thoughts on this one. The God in the Bowl part of the story, I was initially pretty interested in. This whodunit, who killed this fancy rich guy, and Conan was a suspect, and there was an investigator, and lots of questioning going on, so that was fun, although it was maybe a little anticlimactic that in the end it was just a snake that killed this guy. Although I guess it was a really evil snake that was maybe more powerful than a regular snake because it was maybe controlled by this Thoth-amon sorcerer guy. Then the second half of this story, Conan is teaming up with this guy Kallian, and they are trying to destroy this MacGuffin, and this Thoth-amon sorcerer is trying to kill them all and get at this MacGuffin emerald thing. And, you know, it was pretty exciting. The stakes were pretty high. It was maybe a little bit too magical to me. Maybe I want Conan to be a little bit more grounded into reality, but still pretty cool. Thoth-amon is he's pretty powerful, man. And for Conan to try to stand up against Thoth-amon, it was pretty exciting. And Thoth-amon, he wasn't even there in person. Thoth-amon was doing all this shit remotely through some magic and sorcerer stuff. So you can only imagine what it would be like if the two of them were, battling face to face. But still, a very exciting story, and it was a pretty good one. So I'm going to give this volume an 8 out of 10. Solid stuff, although I did like Volume 0 and 1 a little bit more, but still, I had a lot of fun. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the future with Volume 3.